everyone, welcome back. We're here with Ryan Meinerding. Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
We didn't scare you too much last time. You came back for more.
Oh, come on. It was a lot of fun.
I know, it was awesome. We're here to talk about Cap.
Right on.
That's amazing. So this is, tell us a little bit about this Hot Toys figure that we have right here.
Sure, yeah. They were kind enough to get sort of a concept art series started, and looking at the unused concepts from the MCU, and sort of creating new figures based on that concept art. So this figure, this design has not appeared in a film. It was done as a piece of concept art for Civil War. It was meant to be in the Lagos scene, that sort of opening.
Oh yeah.
The opening scene. Where Cap and the whole team are sort of supposed to be undercover a little bit. So the design was meant to be like he's not in his full red, white, and blue costume. He's essentially there to sort of be on a stealth mission a little bit. So I did a number of versions like this that he was almost wearing just a bulletproof vest and khakis. This was sort of the more intense version where he's got like a full costume on, but the other part of it was essentially, if he's not in a Cap costume per se, if he's wearing like an Avengers, bulletproof vest, the idea being that possibly at the end of that movie, I was pitching the idea that this is sort of like the scaled vest that could inspire the end look, where he could actually have had a scaled costume at the end of Civil War. But they decided not to do that, so this idea was also not put in the film.
Yes, I like the subtle touches though of the Avengers stuff and the classic kind of Cap, but also it looks like nothing we've ever really seen before, and it's kind of an homage to he's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., kind of, like, at least in this particular mission. Like, he's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. before everything goes to...
Sure, yeah. And the Russo brothers always like to bring, like, a really grounded, tactical feel to stuff. So suggesting this kind of thing where it feels, like something that could exist on, like, a real tactical person in the real world, at least in theory, and then making it slightly more superhero with, like, the scales and the Avengers logo.
So what is it like translating Cap's look from something like the scales and the very comic book over the top, like bright colors type look, to something that is more tactical and more practical for the MCU?
One of the joys of working on the MCU is that the stories are so great that a lot of times the story points really drive what we're doing with the costumes. His journey through the MCU has essentially been, represented by the visuals of the costume. So at the very beginning, the USO suit was a suit that was given to him by the government to be a symbol, and he wore it and he hated it, and he covered it up to go on his rescue mission. And that idea of wanting to be a soldier instead of a symbol, when he's walking back with the Howling Commandos, and he sort of recognizes the value in both being a symbol and a soldier, and he ends up with the costume that he has, the hero costume at the end of First Avenger. That sort of transition into Avengers, when Coulson makes his costume and he's back there again from sort of someone giving him a symbolic thing that's very clearly red, white, and blue, and being a little bit embarrassed by it.
I'm having like Cap feels right now. It was like the idea of the symbol and the soldier is something that's like, wow, that is such a journey that he's been on across the MCU. So continue.
And that sort of applying, when he puts a stealth suit on in Winter Soldier, and it's more of a modern soldier, and it's darker, and it has different implications for him doing things maybe he shouldn't be sort of proud of, and realizing again that he needs to go back to his roots and putting on the sort of the costume that Bucky's going to recognize him. It's almost that he could recognize himself again as well.
Having so many Cap feels. Now I want to watch all the Cap movies. It's happening.
But the best part about that too is that all of that stuff then went into his look. Like in Avengers 2, everything that we had learned, we tried to modernize the Cap costume again by taking what we learned about from the stealth suit, and then reapplying that to a red, white, and blue color scheme. And that sort of idea sort of moved on from that too. So I don't know. Designing the costumes is, and to answer your question more succinctly, it's a real joy and a treat, because we end up really basing the stuff on the story, and hopefully the journey of him through the MCU, people respond to that more than maybe any singular costume, and say like, that's a cool thing that within the icon from the comics, we didn't just do the icon, we did the icon told through storytelling, and hopefully that feels like a more real, grounded character.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I love. Wow. I'm just kind of absorbing everything you just said right now. Do you have a favorite version of Cap in the MCU throughout his journey? I think it's hard to. I mean, I'm not going to answer for you, but I feel like it's now that you've just explained everything about his journey. Like, how do you pick a costume?
It seems like a lot of people really like the stealth suit.
The stealth suit's cool
because he looks really cool in it. I like the stealth suit applied to a red, white, and blue color scheme. So I do probably like Civil War, just because it feels like all the lessons that we learned. The helmet got worked out and it feels better on him, and the suit ended up feeling like a real grounded tactical version of a character that I love. But it's so much fun though, because like his look in Infinity War then is like throwing a lot of that away, right? Like destroying some parts of it and having
the star ripped off.
Yeah, and not having the helmet, and so it's probably between
It's like bearded Cap.
It's probably between Infinity War and Civil War.
Wow.
For me.
I feel like that's.
Do you have a favorite one?
I do really like Civil War. Okay. I like the culmination of everything. Like now that you've explained it as in terms of a journey, I just always thought of Civil War as the version of Cap that was truest to himself.
Right.
And if your goal was to create a story that added different parts of that throughout the MCU, you completely did it. So, awesome. So congrats. We have some questions coming in. Misty in Facebook is asking about the shield. Do you have a favorite Cap shield? And she says it doesn't have to be in the movie. It could be in the comics too.
Oh, sure. There's a lot of cool shields in the comics. I was fortunate to design all of his shields from the films. I like the magnetic idea also because the magnetic shield on a hot toy is so cool that it can just stick to his arm or it can stick to his back. I'm a fan of that one.
I liked the sound. Whoever did the sound mixing, whoever made that sound, because they made it sound so distinct to Cap.
Well, the shield also has a sound on its own, that sort of like metal, like whirring sound.
And when
he throws it,
because you're a comic book fan, and we've always read the sounds. Which is such a crazy thing to think about, you reading a sound. Yeah. But whoever did the sound mixing took whatever that whirring sound was and the clink sound and all that stuff and made it real. And I never questioned that wasn't exactly the sound that his shield makes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So, yeah.
It's one of the best parts of the shield, frankly.
Yeah. I liked the first shield, the rescue mission one that wasn't really the shield.
Yeah.
But I liked that version of it as well. More questions. So, what is the most difficult part of being the head of visual development?
Sadly, there's a lot of difficult parts. I have a really fun job. I'm very grateful for the job that I have. I'm very fortunate to be there. Honestly, over the past couple of years, the hardest part is just that there's so many interesting and fun things to do. And the only way that I can do good work is to focus. So I'm sort of at odds with the idea of, Infinity War. There's like 40, I don't even know how many characters there are, 40 or 50 characters. And I have to focus in order to do the best work that I can do. Thankfully, I have an awesome team. Andy Park, Rodney Fuentebella, Jackson Z, Anthony Francisco, and Adam Ross, who are all awesome at what they do, so I can rely on them to do amazing work as well. But that's kind of the hardest thing. It's sad to admit, but it's almost like I stay up as late as I can to work as much as I can to get through all of the awesome stuff. But the hardest part is knowing that I'm not going to be able to do a lot of the stuff I'd love to do.
That's fair. When you say things like, okay, so you just mentioned Infinity War has like basically every character in the MCU. Do you personally, because with such a big team, do you guys focus on particular characters, and how does that collaboration work? Is that because like you've been so involved in the evolution of Captain America? Did you focus on Cap, or do you do an array of characters? Like how does that team work and come together?
Usually when a character has sort of a first appearance, in the MCU, it's one of the most challenging things to get that first appearance approved. The look of the character is really going to define the tone of the property. It's going to mean so much for marketing. It's going to mean so much to really nail what that movie is going to be about. And all of us usually get to take stabs at a character when it's going to have a first appearance. And whoever really gets that approved essentially ends up staying with that character as they go along. Oh, wow. So Andy designed, Ant-Man and Black Widow and Hawkeye. So he's essentially done almost every version of those characters in the MCU.
Oh, wow.
When we do the big movies, it is a big collaboration. I try to work on the things that I've stayed with as well, like Cap and Spider-Man and Vision and
you designed Vision?
I designed Vision.
Oh, okay, sorry, I'm really excited. I love his design in the MCU. Awesome. It's such a great translation from because when you found out, or when I found out Vision was going to be in the MCU, I was like, how are they going to make that work, practically? And oh my God, it's stunning. So
awesome.
Continue.
Oh yeah. So
just gushing a little bit, fangirling out on you.
And I mean, because we're also working on multiple projects at once too. Andy leads his own team working on another movie. He was working on Ragnarok at the same time I was doing Infinity War. So we're all sort of trying to keep working on, because for Ragnarok I also did Hulk and I worked on some of the other characters. So it's because I had worked on the previous Hulks. There's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of collaboration. It's a fantastic team. It's a fantastic.
So is it stuff hey, I saw the dailies and Hulk or Thor does this in Infinity War or in Ragnarok, so he needs to look like this more in Infinity War?
Well, I mean, the other key, the most key component of this is that everything's being overseen by Kevin, right?
Oh,
so
okay.
Kevin knows.
That makes sense. All right.
We're clearly talking to each other about what we're working on. We work right next to each other, right? So we know what's going on for the most part in all the movies, but Kevin's also suggesting hey, we should try to incorporate this, or if we have any questions, we can always touch base on what's going on in the other films.
That's awesome. Wow. This is actually a really good question. George Falls in Facebook said, "Who is the hardest character to translate onto screen?"
I mean, I feel
they all have their challenges, I'm sure.
Yeah. One of the things about that question is that they're all interesting in their own way. I think the MCU has really benefited from leaning into the stuff that's interesting from the comic reference, saying, so some things that could seem like they're hard, actually, if you think about it as an asset as opposed to a problem, it all of a sudden becomes the thing that helps you figure out the design.
That makes sense.
Some stuff with Vision kind of fell into that category for me. Because I think we were going to do, Joss was really, wanted to keep him a little bit more, he just looked more like Paul Bettany. But when we started to actually lean into the green costume or gray-green costume and the more red or maroon face, that stuff just ends up being that's what people want. It's not only what people want to see, but I look at designing these characters as what is going to make this movie unique. Because so much about putting a character or a superhero in a film, you can make them compelling, you can make them interesting, you can make them relatable. But what's going to make this movie unlike every other movie? And if you look at the design for Black Panther, the things that make that movie unique are the things that make it awesome.
Yeah.
And so leaning into the stuff that is unique specifically about the characters. Vision was a challenge. The other ones that are hard are the ones, frankly, that I didn't necessarily work on. Ego from Guardians 2, translating a planet.
How do you make a planet into a person?
And that's also challenging for other reasons. Andy actually led that team as well. But the notion of that's actually going to be the art department on a film will work on that that vehicle and the planet, and that's not our department. So the idea of a character being designed by two separate groups that has to sort of work together. So there's challenges that you don't necessarily process when you think about how filmmaking is achieved. But that kind of stuff can be challenging as well. So and the Dark Elves took 300 versions.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Spider-Man was hard too, just because Spider-Man was one I did do, and it was because the previous film costumes were so successful. It puts a lot of pressure on trying to come up with a new version that still feels classic that fans will love. But
leaning into the Stark tech was actually a really interesting and awesome choice, because then you could make it slightly different from anything else that had been done before.
That to me is also where we try to start with a concept that's maybe inherently different, like something that, so we're not just trying to do like visual solutions for something. It's just like, hey, let's put a line here, a line there.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Were the moving Spidey eyes your idea?
The moving Spidey eyes were my idea.
That was all, like, to kind of riff off of that, you're a big Spider-Man fan.
I am a big Spider-Man fan.
So putting little touches like that, do you lean into those things that like you know Spider-Man fans are gonna just like eat up? Because that was something when, as soon as Spider-Man's eyes moved, I was like, whoa, what? Like, sorry, that's not really a question. No. That was just like we know you're a big Spider-Man fan.
No,
thank you for those touches.
No, sure. No, like we're always trying to do things that we think fans are going to like. But we're also trying to do things that are right for the story.
Right.
You know, trying to find essentially the thing that's in that sweet spot between what's close to the comic reference, inspired by the comic reference, works for the story, works for the world that the directors are trying to create.
Well, Tom Holland having his eyes be expressive that's what you're talking about, correct? Like Tom Holland fits directly into the world that you built, and therefore having him have more expressive eyes.
I mean, there's a number of things that go into it. The fact that it's a Stark suit and it's meant to be more advanced. The idea of trying to find something that felt like classic Spidey, but we hadn't seen in a previous Spider-Man movie. The fact that it's meant to be a younger version of Spider-Man, and the idea of having an expressive face, which you wouldn't necessarily think was important for like a super heroic Spider-Man.
Right.
But if he's meant to be more relatable, a little bit younger, having his expressions come through on his mask is something that all plays into that. So yeah, all that stuff sort of gets mixed up in that bundle of like what's going to work for the story world, what's important for the movie, and you know, what hopefully that cashes in on like what fans are going to be excited about as well.
That's awesome. Kind of bringing it back around to the Cap figure right here. Joe Lombardo's asking in YouTube, are there any other concept designs of yours that you would like to see made into a figure that because they didn't necessarily make it into the film?
That's a very good question. There's probably some Iron Man suits over the years. There was a couple of Spideys that I wouldn't have mind seeing.
But is it possible that those concepts could be used in future Spidey films?
Oh, you never...
Yeah.
So
there's also that element to the question.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that's interesting about our team as well, because we end up creating a lot of artwork that sometimes is used and sometimes isn't, and it always is sitting there, right?
Right.
So
you never know. This could be... Probably not.
No,
but,
probably
not. But
I worked really hard on Hulkbuster, and my design was not picked for that film. For Age of Ultron, Josh Nizzi actually designed Hulkbuster for that. But I really wanted to design Hulkbuster, so I'd love to have a
Ryan Meinerding Hulkbuster exists somewhere.
Don't say the Ryan Meinerding Hulkbuster.
Okay.
The cool concept art version of Hulkbuster.
Okay, the concept, Hulkbuster concept.
There was a lot of really amazing concept art that was done for Hulkbuster. There were also a lot of cool Ultrons that were done that would be fun to see. Some that were kind of scary, some that were, there's a lot. Some of the characters we end up doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of concepts for.
Because and this might be like a too broad of a question, but for a character like Vision, or the scales on Cap specifically, or like I was also thinking of like Scarlet Witch, whose MCU costume looks absolutely nothing like what she looks like in the comic books. Like those types of translations, like where does the line get made? Like where's the choice there? Will we ever see scales on Cap?
The choice is always like kind of leaning into what I was saying about the being story driven. It's always about what's going to work for the story. So if there's a way I can pitch things that make sense. This one was actually, the idea of it was, so you'd see this at the beginning of the movie, and then at the end of the movie when he was fighting, the pitch that I gave was when he's fighting Iron Man blasts him in the chest and knocks him over, and he gets back up, and you see that this section's, the cloth's been ripped off, and underneath is scales, and that's when he's like super ready to go at Iron Man. and that idea was not used for that movie. But then if you subtly look at the Infinity War suit, you see like that because that suit's old and worn, you see holes in it, and actually the scales are underneath.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to watch Infinity War again and take a look at that. That's awesome. I'm gonna go through a couple little things about the figure really quick. It has the authentic likeness of Chris Evans as Captain America in Captain America Civil War. Oh my gosh. Were you heartbroken when he tweeted out about his last day?
He's amazing. He's an amazingly nice guy, and he's an amazing Captain America. So yeah, there was a tear.
I know. We all found out at like New York Comic Con, like at our booth, we're all like walking around. The employees are just like, "Did you see? It's Chris Evans' last day as Cap," and we're all like, anyway. And this guy was actually at our booth at New York Comic Con, so this is the one that was on display. So this was the one that existed when we all heard the tragic news. Well, it's not, I mean, it is tragic, but you know, anyway. So he has a head sculpt with 2 interchangeable lower facial expressions, 30 points of articulation, 7 pieces of interchangeable black gloved hands, 1 black colored Captain America suit with scale pattern and silver colored Avengers emblem, a black colored embossed patterned pants with pouches and knee pads. Wow, that's almost like a tongue twister. He has fabric-coated elbow pads, fabric-coated knee pads, leather-like black shield holder and body strap, black boots, and then he has a circular shield with effects and a black and white heater-shaped. Oh, okay. That's a shape? A heater shape?
Yeah.
All right.
It's like a shield.
Okay, I didn't know that. There you go. I learned something. With weathering effects, and he is available for pre-order now and shipping soon. So head on over to side.show/conceptcap, or you can enter for your chance to win this exact one that was on the table with the guy who designed him, Ryan Meinerding. Yay, that's exciting. So that's side.show/live contest. You can enter for your chance to win this exact one that I'm touching. I'm poking him on the head. I feel like Cap wouldn't like that. So just a couple, like, to kind of bookend this. Someone is asking if you have any thoughts on who the next Cap should be moving forward.
Oh.
I know that.
Cut to commercial.
Yeah, and video.
I mean,
you guys don't even know if, like, what happens. He doesn't even know what happens.
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things about my job is, like, it's one of the easiest jobs in the world to lose, if I say anything.
Yeah.
But I also don't necessarily know the plans for the future, right? We're so entrenched in just trying to finish what's on our plate, and it's a lot that I'd love to be able to know stuff about the future. But in some ways, I don't really want to know, but I don't actually.
You're a fan.
I'm a fan.
Yeah.
But the things that are the future, I actually don't know what they're gonna do.
See, guys, see what happens. Look what you did. Anyway, thank you so much for talking Cap with us. This is such an amazing piece. You guys go pre-order him right now. Take a look at, like, Ryan also does art prints for our art print program, including this one. It's sold out, but you can look at it right here. Isn't this pretty? Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully we didn't scare you off again. We have one last question.
Oh, okay.
Would you mind signing the piece for the winner?
Oh, of course.
Awesome. So yes, here we go. You can sign it usually on the base is where we have people sign it. But yes, oh my gosh. Signed by head of Marvel Visual Development, Ryan Meinerding, right here, you guys. So enter for your chance to win, side.show/live contest. We are going to a quick break. Again, thank you so much, Ryan. Now I get to play with Cap. Thank you for joining us, and we will be right back. You're watching Sideshow Live.
Marvel approached us, it was a year or two ago, about Doctor Strange for omnibus covers and things like that, where, again, Alex is pretty straightforward with, can I do the classic version? Can it be, which version of Doctor Strange do they want? And Marvel, you know, to his glee, said, whatever version. Alex, he didn't, you know, sometimes people don't realize there were earlier there was an earlier design to Doctor Strange's costume. It was the Steve Ditko version, which Alex always felt was, again, another really overlooked aspect of the character that was just had a tremendous impact on him as a reader and an artist for the character. He always felt that those early stories of Doctor Strange were very, defining for the character. And then, of course, the outfit that came later was cool for him as well. Even the Doctor Strange when he had the mask, and then later on, the one we see now. But Alex was thrilled that they were cool with him to be able to do the Steve Ditko early 60s version. And again, this is, it gets lost a little bit. A lot of people don't always see the Doctor Strange image at the top, or this is kind of, again, a throwback to what you see in the Doctor Strange origin, the Steve Ditko origin. A particular sequence was taken out of a really, really old story of his connection with the underworld and stuff which were a big part of the origin. Marvel was like, go, whichever version he wants to do, and so Alex jumped all over this.
Hello, welcome back to Sideshow Live, and this is Paolo Rivera. Hello, how are you? Now, this is your first time on the show.
Mm-hmm.
How's it going so far?
It's been good.
Yeah.
Ryan got things warmed up, so I'm ready to go.
Awesome. So you are here to talk about the Justice League Modern art print. How is that?
It was a lot of work. I'm glad it's done because I almost didn't finish it, but I finally got through. And you guys were very, very patient with me.
Yeah, but look at how amazing it turned out.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
wow. Is it weird that I love that you got Red Tornado in there?
Yeah,
I love that.
I mean, one of the toughest things was kind of coming up with a roster for who it was going to be. But we worked with David Igo to figure out who we were going to do. And I don't know. I mean, it's tough because you got to
Yeah, which version of the Justice League?
Yeah, which version of each character, which characters get cut, and who's going to be in what position, who can fly, who can't, all that kind of stuff.
I don't ever think about that. Who can fly and who can't?
Yeah,
that matters with the composition of the artwork. That makes complete sense.
It's great when people can fly because it means you're not bound by the rules of gravity. So if I put Superman a little bit higher, you're not going to question what is he standing on. So there's a lot of things you can kind of play with, and it doesn't matter as much. Whereas on the bottom row, everyone has to be standing on the same ground relatively.
That's awesome.
But there's a lot of just
So can you tell us a little bit about the evolution of the project? How do you pick? You touched on this a little bit. How do you pick which version of the Justice League and which version of each character?
Well, the nice thing was the project started out with a sketch by Ryan Sook. So I usually I do a concept or a color study to kind of get things started, but he had a really great composition. So what you're seeing right now, I didn't change that much from what he drew, and he had I think he had 7, the big 7 characters. And then once we started working on it, we decided to put on more, and we had talked about doing different versions, maybe having some other characters in there, but
I noticed Green Arrow and Black Canary are not on here.
Yeah, we need to do another one. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. We could have a companion piece, very easily.
Yeah.
Very easily. I'm looking. She sees me. She knows. She's not happening.
Yeah, he's already slow enough.
So this was designed as a modern take on the Justice League.
Yeah.
So can you kind of define for people who maybe aren't as interested or aren't as attuned to what the modern Justice League would be?
Well,
how
the problem is I wasn't that familiar either. We're trying. As soon as I posted this, people are asking, well, why does Superman not have underpants but Batman does? And I don't have a good answer. We went. To be
honest, I didn't even notice that until you just pointed that
out.
Well,
that's the thing. I naturally want to put underpants on everybody. That's just
well,
like
fair.
Yeah, for me that's like the classic style.
Everyone has underpants in my versions of the characters as well.
But when we were working with DC, you know, they had a very specific idea of what the modern look would be and who would look like what and that kind of stuff. So it kind of went back and forth on a lot of different versions, especially with Wonder Woman.
God, but I love the version of the costume you landed on.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, I ended up taking a lot of inspiration from the sculpture that you guys produced.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure what that version's called, but she basically is wearing the same...
the one with the yeah?
Well, when I started...
the new one!
Yeah, yeah. So when we started, it was the one with the spear. And actually, in one version of this, it had the spear right here. And like the spear actually covered up Superman a little bit. And then we ended up going with the lasso of truth and going with the new version for her costume.
That's awesome. I love Hawk Girl on her too.
Yeah, she's one.
So you have a very large social media presence, including a blog with Wacky Reference Wednesdays.
Yep, every Wednesday. Well,
not today. Is Wednesday.
Not today. I did not pregame. I have nothing to show for today.
Well, do you have any wacky reference that you can, like a story that you could potentially share for any Sideshow prints that you've done?
Well, I can tell you right now, this is my knee. I think it's quite nice.
This knee?
I did not shave, but my arms. Those are pretty much. No, I went outside on our patio where I'm sure neighbors saw me, and I set up a tripod at I think 2 p.m. was when the light was right, and made sure the sun was slightly behind me to my left, and I held my yellow rope. I actually have a yellow rope, and I will be posting that.
I was going to say, can you please post this?
I will.
And tag us?
I did not bring it with me, but I have it, and it's pretty close, minus the chest area, to what it looks like there. Yeah.
Wow.
And
so you're telling us you're Wonder Woman.
Different. Yes, I am. I'm trying to think. I think she was the
You're
only one.
You're different than I expected.
I think she's the only one I did that for. Everyone else I used, there's an app called Anatomy 360 where you can light figures, and they actually photograph models in the round, and you can, it's great. So I use that for a lot of it.
So your father is also a celebrated comic book artist.
Yeah, we started working together in 2011. He inked me on Daredevil, which was his very first project for Marvel, and he inked Count Dooku for me this week. It's great because I can just send him stuff.
He inked Count Dooku.
Yeah, for you and before that, I think he did an Obi-Wan. We're doing some prequel stuff for Marvel right now, which I have no idea if I can mention that, but
you just did.
Yeah, I did. But yeah, it's great working with him. I do. I pencil something out, and then I scan it in, turn it into a blue line, email it to him. He inks over the blue line after he prints it out and scans it, sends it back to me.
Oh, wow.
And then I usually color it.
So do you work more traditionally or digitally?
It's kind of a mix. Everything starts digitally, and then usually goes traditional, and then he does his inks traditionally, and then I usually color digitally. In this case, I did the whole thing in Photoshop, start to finish. I was going to paint it, but things just took too long, and it was faster to finish it that way.
So Granite Grizz in YouTube is asking, Paolo, do you prefer group pictures or single subject pictures, and why?
I think this is the first... Well, it's the first DC painted stuff that I've done. I've done group shots before, but I don't do many just because I take so long. I've done more group shots for the traditional, line and color artwork, but the painted stuff, not so much. But yeah, they're tough. It takes a lot. You can get away with a lot. Like painting, you can kind of skimp on the background sometimes because you can make things a little blurry. But with line art, it's easier to make things work because you're not relying on realistic, physical light. So you can kind of cheat things that way. Whereas with this, if you put the light from a different angle on, 2 different figures,
Yeah.
someone might not notice it, but it might read wrong, upon first glance.
Oh.
So, I actually I'll paint kind of a sphere the same way that computer graphics people do for movies, where you get a sphere, you have one chrome one, you have a white one, a black one, and a gray one, just to try and keep things consistent in the environment.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, I do that a lot for painted stuff, because it's just easier for me to think of what it should look like and then translate that. Because, the reference I use, it's often very helpful, but it's never exact.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have to paste things together.
Wow. That's awesome. So can you talk about some of the modifications you've made on your workstation that you have, your personal workstation? Because we've all heard rumors about that.
Well, I use a lot of magnets. It's funny because this was all done on my little Cintiq. So nothing really changed. But when I'm working traditionally, I do have an elaborate setup where it's let's see, I have an easel and then a piece of metal on top of that, and then that's covered with craft paper. And so all my reference, I can stick to it using magnets. I can hold the artwork there. I just got a reference rail. So when they hang up, when a radiologist hangs up an X-ray,
oh, yeah.
one of those things.
Uh-huh.
So I just put my reference up there and pull it down when I need it. Just lots of little things like that.
That's smart, though. You have everything right there, and you can...
Yeah, it's just I need very few barriers to me starting painting.
You need the Tony Stark foo, and then all the different screens, and then they're just all your images.
Well, it's nice in Photoshop. You can do that. I'll have a split screen, and everything I need is in one file, and I can just open that up and just kind of move it around. But a lot of it is just where you get your reference from and how you organize it. I think I sent it to you guys. It's a huge file. Just the reference itself is a few hundred megabytes. And I keep them all on separate layers, because some reference you want to use for certain characters, and some of it work for 2 or more characters. It just kind of depends. One section is just for hawk wings. It's just all kinds of little things like that.
See, that's the type of stuff I don't think about. I just think about you just get pictures of Hawk Girl. You don't necessarily think about the wings.
Yeah, and I
as
wanted
an artist,
to get,
you have to.
I needed to know what it looked like to have sun coming through it.
Oh,
so it's a lot of Google image search.
See, this is why you're the artist.
Stuff. Yeah. That's it's not half of my job, but it's a very, without that portion, I couldn't do it.
Absolutely. So Jamie Dewberry is asking, is there a character that you hope to be able to paint in the future that you haven't painted yet?
For Justice League?
Or just
he
didn't
in general?
specify,
okay.
so in general, you can go broad on this one.
Painted. I would like to paint more Batman.
Paint more Batman?
More Batman, yeah. I haven't gotten to paint enough Batman. I'll put it that way. I've painted enough Spider-Man. I would love to paint Spider-Man again, but I've painted him many times over the years. Mm-hmm. With Batman, aside from this and a handful of commissions, not nearly enough. And actually, same with Superman. I will have to say, Superman and Wonder Woman were the toughest because, they don't have a mask. Batman's kind of easy. You draw the mask and, hey, that's Batman.
Yeah.
But if you draw Superman or Wonder Woman with the wrong face, it just doesn't look right.
Huh.
And it's tough for me to say, certain actors have played them, and that feeds into it, and then certain artists draw them a certain way, and so the one that's in my mind, this is as close to what I can get in my mind of what they should look like, but it's still not quite there. I think I'd have to sculpt it in order to really get a handle of it.
So you mentioned a handful of Batman commissions. One of the questions on here is, are you taking fan commissions currently?
No.
And why not?
The main reason is because starting back in basically the beginning of my career, I took on a lot of commissions ahead of time, and I am still not finished with them. So I finished one, a Spider-Man in the Sinister 16. I think it was first commissioned in 2009. I only finished it a couple years ago. And so that was actually holding everything back. And so once I get through that list, then I'll start taking them on again. I'll do them at shows sometimes, but only like headshots. Nothing.
So my like dream of a Green Arrow Black Canary by you is just like not gonna happen.
I think I did that at some point, but that was like, I mean, you wouldn't have wanted that one. I'll put it that way.
I'm sure I wouldn't.
It wasn't very good. It's nice to have that like that trail of tears, like looking back, like, man, I wish I hadn't drawn that. But you have to do that in order to get to a point where you don't hate it.
So is there a particular character that inspired you to start drawing in the first place? Like a favorite that maybe you had when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many. I drew, man, probably, well, the most was probably Ninja Turtles. And I've done an intro piece for you guys, which was, a dream come true because I'd never done it professionally before. I'd drawn them a lot on my own. I drew a lot of Ninja Turtles, a lot of Batman, a lot of Spider-Man. I was never like a big Cap fan until I drew him for Marvel. And so that's as late as like 2008.
Wow.
But after that, I became a big fan. And so now Cap is one of my favorites. Which is, like when I was a kid, I can't say like why I didn't like him. I liked Spidey and Batman and, those guys more.
I mean, you just gravitate towards the characters you gravitate towards.
Yeah, I can't really explain it, but now, I'm a huge Cap fan.
That's awesome. So are you attending any upcoming shows or conventions?
No, I'm only doing 2 this year and they're already done.
Oh, well, I mean, I want to be like, oh no, I'm so sad. But at the same time, like, conventions are exhausting and I kind of get it.
I mean,
says the girl with con crud.
Yeah, they can be tough. And now I try and only go if I can also turn it into a family vacation. Which isn't always possible, but sometimes it is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the best example was that we did Paris. And so,
I mean, that's the one to do, right?
Yeah, I did my little weekend thing, and then we stayed for a week, and it was amazing. So,
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's like a perk of this job that you never would have thought would be part of it, but it's amazing.
So for your wacky references, do you ever use like figures, or is it just you?
I've been using more figures, and actually, like when I'm here and I'm like looking around all this stuff, I want to take photos.
Oh, you're totally allowed.
Well, but I mean, like, and bring my like flashlight and like light it from a specific way. But I have to have.
I'm not an authority to give you permission, but I give you permission.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It like the detail on these, and I love to sculpt. I don't do it professionally, but I love to do it just as a learning practice, and just seeing what you guys have created over the years. I first visited here in 2005 in a different location.
Yeah,
and to see what you guys have become and how much you've produced is just amazing.
That's so cool.
Like, I love toys, always have, and like this is great to see.
I know, it's like coming to some sort of like Santa's workshop or something.
Yeah,
something
really,
like that, like the nerd version of Santa's workshop.
Yeah, yeah. And where I'm staying, there's like a giant Iron Patriot that scared the heck out of me.
Oh yeah,
so I was like
awesome.
Walking into a dark room, and I'm like, okay, I know what that is. He's got a shoulder cannon.
This morning, coming in here, oddly, Boba Fett scared me. Like I came in and the whole lobby was dark, and then I just saw the shape of this like Mandalorian with a blaster, and was like. Yeah. Oh, right, Boba Fett. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It takes a split second, which is enough to get scared.
Yeah, it's just that one moment. Yeah. Awesome. So one last question before we move on is, who in your companion piece would you like to have, like if you did a companion piece, who's not on there that you would like to include?
Different version of the Flash. Oh. Green Arrow, Hawkman. Hal Jordan version of Green Lantern.
Awesome. Black Canary.
And
Black Canary.
Yeah, Black Canary.
Okay. Cool.
Sorry.
Yeah. Cool.
No, really, she was coming.
I'm just gonna like lead you into this one.
What else are we talking about? Plastic Man.
Oh, that's awesome.
And Dr. Fate. I swear, Black Canary was going to be in there because you can't have Green Arrow without Black Canary.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. Awesome. Well, that was so cool. And just for you guys, so you know, this features 12 superheroes on it. It is an officially licensed DC Comics fine art print. It was limited edition to 300. It is currently waitlisted, you guys. So that's awesome for you. But you guys will want to jump on that waitlist if you hope to get it. So head on over to side.show/Justice League in order to get your hand-signed embossed seal of authenticity. That's what comes with the piece, but if you manage to snag it. So sign up for the wait list and head on over to the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/sideshow art prints. We also have an Instagram page now for this, which is on Instagram at sideshow art prints. That's correct? Yes, Buffy? Yes. Okay, cool. Where we just started it, but it's already taking off and it's pretty awesome. You can take like kind of cool looks at some of the art prints that we have that are available and that maybe are coming up. So that is really awesome. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was so much fun to have you. So you guys, we have another video. When we come back, we will be looking at some DC collectibles. You're watching Sideshow Live. We'll be right back.
I was always attracted to anything that was monstrous.
He has that urban legend, creature of the swamp kind of appeal. Swamp Thing is a big shambling mound of vegetation that basically is the swamp in human form.
It was actually one of the first comic characters I was actually aware of and became invested in on some level because the hero happened to be an alien or a monster, in this case a swamp monster, so I was immediately drawn into that.
I think Swamp Thing has been a character that has been somewhat neglected in the collectible market. So we were like, hey, let's do this. Let's base it on the old original designs that Stephen Bissette and Bertie Wrightson had done and put our own twist on it and really make an impactful piece for the collectors. The design could kind of get spun every which way, especially with the evolution of the character now. It's kind of taken on more of a human form. We wanted to do that Bigfoot, boggy creek creature that does exist in some of the movies and cinematically. So we had Paul take a stab at it.
In this case, I wanted to take what the artist Stephen Bissette and John Totleben, what they'd done, and then what Totleben had brought with his inks, which he'd rendered every single bit of moss and flower and vine that was growing out of the body, and I wanted to get as much as that as I could. We didn't want him too aggressive, we just want him abiding in the swamp in a sense, but definitely with a sense of intensity and determination, kind of lurching forward.
Steve Rojas did the first version of Swamp Thing, and he did a great job establishing the overall look that we would go with. When you think about him, you think green, but there's also a lot of brown. We also did some heavy shadowing with some dark greens, like in the deep areas, which really helped bring the whole thing to life.
We got to play with it, and we figured Swamp Thing is an imposing character. He needs to be an imposing collectible. Cranius is Swamp Thing's arch nemesis, the villain in that world.
Obviously, he's the brains of the operation. He's actually a walking brain, and he walks on a large human hand.
And we thought, wow, what would be really cool is if we get Paul on it, let him design it, make it even creepier, and add, Paul's creepy aesthetic, and make that the exclusive.
I think the reason we choose to do these characters is because we can put our spin on it and also pay tribute to a character that has this, there's a culture of fans out there that love the character. We definitely brought to the table something spectacular for a character that doesn't get quite as much love as some of the larger, well-known characters. If you're a fan of Swamp Thing, you're going to want this statue.
As a fan, I'm excited that this piece finally came to fruition. I'm looking forward to having one on my shelf.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sideshow Live. We have, first off, thank you guys. Those amazing guests were amazing. So you guys were awesome. But now we have a DC collectible segment that we're going to talk about some of these really, really awesome figures from our friends over at DC Collectibles. Where would you like to start, Brendan? Over here?
Yes.
Over here. Thank you. So right here we have the Batman black and white statue. This is from the Batman Black and White series, That makes sense, right? This is designed by Gerard Way. That is really awesome. So this is a Batman designed by Gerard Way. You guys might know him from the Umbrella Academy and that band that he's in that I never remember the name.
My Chemical Romance.
My Chemical Romance. Thank you. I know him from comics, not from music. I am the worst. But yeah, thank you, Sam. My Chemical Romance. But I'm like, no, he did Umbrella Academy. That's what he does. Anyway. Yes, Gerard Way did this Batman statue. He is over 7 inches tall, and he is available for pre-order now. $80 USD shipping between October and December of this year. Side.show/WayBatman. Side.show/WayBatman. That's a really awesome design. You can see like the Umbrella Academy like kind of influence, but Batman.
Isn't there also a Joker piece designed by Joker?
Yeah, that's this one right here.
We'll
get there, Kitty. Patience. So, do you want to just go to the Joker over here now? Okay, all right, yeah. So since Kitty insists, we're gonna go over to the Joker signed by Gerard Way. This is also from the Batman Black and White series. He's about 7 inches tall as well. Also $80 USD. Pre-ordering and shipping sometime between October and December of this year. So if you would like to add him, they're actually really great companion pieces to each other. Like there's a reason these two are kind of bookending the DC Collectibles segment right here, because that is the Joker, that is Batman. They look awesome together. Head on over to side.show/WayJoker. Side.show/WayJoker. Awesome. Where next? Show me one and I'll talk about it. Yep. I think we're gonna go with her. This is the Halloween Batgirl statue. She is a variant from the DC Bombshell series. You guys all remember that awesome Batgirl that is from, you know, she was like purple and looked like a bomber and stuff like that. But now she has a new Halloween makeover happening and she has a bat look to her. Get it? Batgirl. Side.show/Batgirl to pre-order her now. She's 125 USD, over 10 inches tall, designed by Aunt Lucia, Halloween Batgirl. Yeah, side.show/Halloween Batgirl. So let's go to the front right here for Kid Flash. Kid Flash is from the new Teen Titans multi-part statue. You've seen, I think now, all of them? Have we seen all of them?
I don't think we've seen Donna Troy.
Oh, you're right. We've missed on. See, this is why we have Kitty around.
Raven.
I thought we saw Raven. I think we saw Raven. I've seen Raven. Maybe we haven't shown off Raven. Anyway, this was designed by George Perez. It is based on the new Teen Titans cover, and you can actually, all these statues individually, you can have them individually and then put them together to make the cover. It is over 6 inches tall. It is for pre-order right now, $80 USD. Side.show/Kid Flash to pre-order it right now. Shipping sometime between October and December of 2018. Like all of the rest of them, it is an edition size of 5,000. So basically all 5,000 of you need all of them and you're all gonna make this cover in your collections. Yes? Yes. Excuse me. This is the Batgirl statue from the DC Core series. P.S. I don't know how close you can get in on her, but her base is a cell phone. Like, I was super impressed with this ahead of time when we were showing her because this base is a cell phone. It's so cool. It's like the home button is a bat symbol. And I'm just like completely in love with this Batgirl piece. It's really, really cool. Designed by Jim Fletcher, over 9 inches tall, and is pre-ordering now. She is $50 USD. And you can head on over to side.show/DC Core Batgirl because she is from the DC Core series. DC Core Batgirl, and you can pre-order her now. She is shipping between November of this year and January of next year. So that is what we have for the DC comic selection right here. These are all the DC collectibles that we have right now. You have one more video to watch, and when we come back, we will have a very, very short Q&A. Right now, there aren't any questions, so it'll be a very short Q&A, and then we'll be wrapping up. We had so much awesome stuff today. You're watching Sideshow Live. We'll be right back. Just so you guys know, Challenger said I could have this, so I'm keeping it.
While it's on the show.
No, I can have it. It's official. It's mine now. See? There's the Oracle symbol right here. Yeah, see? Now everyone knows that Challenger said I could have it. She's mine now. Anyway, we only have like 2 questions coming in right now. So hopefully we'll have a short little Q&A segment, and then it'll be good to go. So the first question is coming in from Facebook. Is Sideshow going to LACC? That's Los Angeles Comic-Con. And the answer is not officially, but I believe a lot of staff members are actually going. Sam is going to be there. I think Amy, who runs our blog, is going as well. So yeah, I think a lot of us are going. I'm going to try to, but we'll see if I'm fully recovered from con crud from New York and then ready to get con crud again. It's also, by the way, the middle of Spooktacular. So some of us might be too busy running Spooktacular in order to get to any sort of convention. Why is Kitty laughing really, really hard?
Sal Serrano on Facebook says you have to lick it to claim it, Susan.
Oh, I have to lick it to claim it?
Susan, no.
Oh, and it just happened. So I'm gonna lick it. I licked it. It's mine now. It also has con crud. So look what you just did. Look what you made me do.
Well, good. Now you can box it up because it's
I think Buffy wants me to lick it again. Okay. Awesome. Gross. And now my bosses are gonna kill me. Anyway, this is why you're not allowed to let me do things. What's the coolest thing you guys got to see at NYCC outside of the booth? I think only 3 of us were actually at NYCC. So Brendan, what's the coolest thing you saw outside of the Sideshow booth?
the Bumblebee cosplayer.
Oh, the Bumblebee cosplayer was rad. The coolest thing I saw was Mark Ruffalo. I totally saw Mark Ruffalo. That was pretty cool. So I managed to not make him angry, so he didn't Hulk out. But following us, well, you know what's really funny is following us on social media, you get to see a lot of stuff that like even the employees don't get to see, because there was some stuff that I saw on our social, thanks to Buffy, that I was like, oh, that's awesome. I didn't get to see that because I was stuck doing this. Like, so be sure to follow us if you want full con coverage at Sideshow Collectibles on Instagram, at Collect Sideshow on Twitter, and Sideshow Collectibles on Facebook, among other places. So that's awesome. So we're getting asked, when does Spooktacular start? Spooktacular starts on October 24th and runs through the 31st. So we go the 24th to Halloween, and that is just crazy awesome. It has all kinds of giveaways, all kinds of sales, all kinds of discounts and codes. We go live a lot. Kitty and I...
Two regularly scheduled Sideshow lives.
Yep, 2 regularly scheduled Sideshow lives, but also more than that. Kitty and I usually try to watch a show and do a watch along with giveaways, and then Kitty and I also try to make a fort. So we got a lot of requests for Fort 2.0, so you guys are definitely going to have to weigh in on whether or not you want us to build a Fort 2.0. Maybe we can do a poll about that. So, wow, we do have a lot of questions coming in. Jasmine Edwards, who I met at New York Comic Con. That was awesome. She was cosplaying as a Weasley. But she asked, what's the best cosplay you saw at NYCC? It's really hard to beat that Bumblebee, to be honest. That Bumblebee was pretty rockin'. So, yeah, I think the Bumblebee kind of wins.
Classic or new?
It was like...
Based on the movies?
Yeah, it was the movies. Yeah, it was the Bumblebee I recognized, so it has to be based on the movies. Awesome. So, wow. Okay. So then that's actually all the questions that we have, because a lot of your questions are like, when is this coming out? When can we expect this? Like all that stuff. The answer to all of that is tune into our social media, which I just gave you all of the info. But if you need it again, at Collect Sideshow on Twitter, at Sideshow Collectibles on Instagram, Sideshow Collectibles on Facebook. That is where you get up-to-date information about everything that's coming out. We'll keep you more up-to-date on Spooktacular. But we had an awesome show, you guys, and apparently I got myself a Batgirl, so there's always that. We talked to Ryan Meinerding about the Hot Toys Captain America concept art 6-scale figure. Ryan, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for signing that awesome Cap piece, which someone, if you head on over to side.show/live contest, someone can actually win that piece that Ryan signed on the show. It's amazing. We also had artist Paolo Rivera on the show. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about your Justice League print. We featured some DC collectibles. I acquired a DC collectible, so that's awesome. Remember to keep up to date on all of our live shenanigans by heading on over to side.show/notify, and then you can be notified as to any time we go live. Speaking of which, we are going to be live again tomorrow. So we will be live with the Unboxing Brothers. They will be here in the studio tomorrow to unbox some of the things. We don't even know what they're doing. They're coming in here and they're probably going to run amok, and it's going to be amazing. You're definitely going to want to witness that. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow, and don't forget to let your geek side show. Thank you guys. Bye.